Hello. Hey, can everybody hear me? Am I hearable? Am I audible? Are we good? Hey, what's up? So, it's Dan. I know it's been a long time, and I'm really sorry. So, let me start off with a quick explanation for those of you that don't know or those of you watching on demand. I'm going to put these on YouTube too, so anyone watching these that's interested. Basically, as an extension of Crimson Daggers, we like to do streams. Obviously, I used to do them all the time. I used to do 14-hour-a-day streams. But the problem with Daggers is that the method works too well. And if you stick with it for like a year or more, you're going to start getting work, which is exactly what happened to me. And basically now I have too much work and I can barely stream at all. So for weeks now, I've only been able to do a stream here and there, barely any at all. And essentially, what happened was I found myself taking on too much work to allow myself the free time to do the in depth kind of streams we used to do. And I really miss doing those, and I really miss doing crits, and I really miss all that old stuff. So I started thinking if I can't show any of my work because it's all under NDA, then obviously the streams are going to have to be about other people's work. So was talking with a few people in the group, and one thing we really wanted to get the ball rolling on that used to be around in the heyday of CA, it's probably still around, I haven't checked, is mentoring. And mentoring really helped me back when I was trying to figure this all out. I mentored under Tom Scholes for a little while, and I just learned a lot of really basic stuff in Photoshop that would have taken me months to learn on my own. So, it's a really good thing to do. It's a really fun thing to do, and I wanted to open it up because Daggers isn't about excluding people. So, for those of you in the group, already know. Basically, we've been trying the mentoring thing for people that are too busy to do regular streams, and it's been going really well. Especially Chris's stream, Sickbrush. Huge following. He's really hit the curriculum really well. Everybody's been really excited about it. I've been following along with it. And it seems to be a really cool alternative to the kind of video diary streaming that we used to do, where it was just every day we were live all day. So if we can't do that, this seems like an interesting way to challenge it. So basically what it is, we take on students after we look at portfolios. But because we don't want to exclude anyone, you can follow the class and do the assignments. And if you actually do them and you try really hard, we will show your work on the stream, talk about it. We might even add extra people to the class down the line. There's a thing on the forum you can go to follow each class. So basically, everyone's in the class. Even though I'm only working directly on a regular basis with a couple people, I'll still be looking at all your work if you do it and submit it. So that's what this is. It's kind of like an open class. I'm teaching 3 people. This time around it's Thomas Mahan, Milan, and Taras. And they're all really great. I looked at their work and I saw certain things that resonated with me in each portfolio and I wanted to work with. But there were a ton of other people I wanted to work with too. Some of the people that submitted I didn't take on because I felt like they were already good enough to get regular freelance. So that's the thing. There were lots of people I wanted to work with I couldn't. But hopefully, if those people follow the class and do any of the assignments, I can look at their work and still have some kind of relationship with them through this. So for those of you that didn't get in, it's not that you weren't good enough. It's that there were so many people that I wanted to work with. If I could have, I would have worked with all of you. And hopefully, I'll still get a chance to. So there will be other classes after this where I'll be choosing different people. And if you do the assignments for this class, I will definitely look at them and I will talk about them on the streams. The way this stream is going to work, this is just an introductory stream. We haven't started, we're starting the class now, so I can't really look at students' work and stuff. But I am going to talk about the assignments I'm giving and what this is going to be. Now, for those of you that didn't see on the Crimson Daggers site, I put up this link. I'll put it in the chat. Yeah, the link is in the chat. You can follow this with me if you want. It's a little long. I tend to be a little wordy when I type, but it's a lot to say. So this class, this mentoring class with me, I'm focusing on something that I really love and that clients hire me to do on a regular basis. I feel like I can teach this because it's what I get work doing regularly for like the past 2 years. It's character development with an emphasis on culture and style. So what this is going to be is everyone has to do the characters from the King Arthur myth, but because King Arthur is so rooted in things that have been overdone, because it's so Lord of the Rings, because it's so medieval, it's the same kind of stuff we see a lot of. The twist in this class is that you have to take these well-established archetypal characters and you have to put them in settings that are not medieval Europe. So you have to choose one and be consistent. For my students that I took on, I chose for them based on their portfolios. So, for example, we're going to be doing the hero, who is the Arthur archetype. He's supposed to be kind of young, noble warrior. He has connections to the other world. And what that means is, like King Arthur, he had help from, Merlin, other things like that. If you go further into the mythology, he was a connection between the old Gaelic gods and the coming of Christianity. He had Excalibur. It was a sword that was, magical of descent. He had all these boons and stuff like an epic hero always does that were from, the gods or the other world. So that's what it is. It's a guy who has help from the supernatural to achieve his goal. The magical advisor is the Merlin archetype. He is of the other world. There is something metaphysical about him. He's magical. He's not quite human. He's supernatural. He aids the hero. You all know that. There's the Temptress, which I'm using here as a force you to do a female, because I know a lot of people avoid the female figure. So we're going to do the Morgane archetype. She's going to be kind of in the middle, but leaning towards a villain. Definitely a villain, okay? She's also magical. She kind of is influenced by the other world, but she's a flip. She's an antagonist, okay? So she's a bad guy. Bad girl in this case. So there's all kinds of things you have to play around with that. Is how do you show the motivation? How do you show how that she's, the same but different from the Merlin archetype? You got to get into all that stuff. And then there's the villain, which is the Mordred archetype. And for anyone that follows the kind of myth cycle that Arthur falls under and other things, especially old Greek ones, Arthur has a son. He's a child of incest. He's Mordred. He's evil. So even your villain doesn't have to be the character's son necessarily, but what he has to be is what's called a foil. He has to be similar to the main character but flipped. He has to be very much the same, but on the opposite side of the coin. So you're going to have to play a lot with similarities and differences. We're going to need to see both, and that can be really tough, but it's also really fun. So there's all kinds of visual metaphors and things you can play with the villain, but the hero and the villain have to look like they fit each other, but are also set in opposition. That's going to be the toughest one, and that's the one we're saving for last. So we're going to start with the hero. You're going to establish what your universe is going to look like in this. We're going to do the magical advisor. That's going to be the really fun one where you get to go over the top. We're going to do the temptress, which is kind of a mix of the first two, but also evil, so you got to flip that other side of the coin. And then we're going to take everything we explored in the first three, and you're going to do the final one, which is the villain, who has to go back to the hero, has to fit, has to work, but also has to play on the opposites. So for an example of how we're doing a twist in this, I gave my students a place to put these characters and a time to put them in. If you're following the class, you can do medieval Europe if you want, but I'm not going to critique it if you do. It's been done so many times and it's been done so well that, if you find something truly amazing that I've never seen before with the Arthur myth, yeah, I'll comment on it. But I think the point of this class is to take established ideas and put them in an unconventional light to create some kind of original take on something. That's what this is to give you stuff in your portfolio that feels fresh and vibrant and new, but also is rooted in something that, an AD will look at and recognize and go, oh, okay, wait a minute. I know what these characters are, but it's been put in a new place. It's something new that I'm seeing done with them. That's the whole thing, because if you want to be a concept artist, which I'm assuming most of you do if you're coming into here to listen to this class, You know, games are basically recycled ideas. Space Marines have been done 10 million times, Knights have been done 10 million times. The portfolios that are going to get chosen to get these jobs are the ones that can take an established idea that's been done a million times and present it in a new light that is exciting and fresh to the art director. That's always the portfolio that gets the job. It's not just the execution, that's important too. You have to be really good, you have to render really well, you have to do your studies and your years of work to get there. But ultimately a bland portfolio is a bland portfolio. They want to see something they thought was beaten to death given new life. That's what excites art directors. That's what excites an audience, is when they see something they thought, they had already done everything with, and then you do something new. So, Thomas, I'm assigning you the Arthur cycle set in feudal Japan. Okay? So, I want emphasis on Japanese mythology via the magical characters and a lot of research into the culture and costume to be reflected in the designs. So, for example, if Arthur has Excalibur, what's that sword going to look like in feudal Japan? It can't just be a katana. There has to be something otherworldly about it, something metaphysical. And it's also supposed to be an ancient sword. So, other things you could do is look at what did the weapons look like before the established kind of samurai weapons. Find something older that's brought forward, update it, maybe put some kind of carving in it, connect it with their gods, whatever you got to do. Read their mythology. There's all kinds of mythology about, swordsmanship and swords in feudal Japan. So that's your task, okay? I think feudal Japan is a great place to do this. I think especially the characters of Merlin and Morgan are going to be really, really cool if you push them and you do the research. There's all kinds of really cool things you can do, playing off monks and things from Merlin, playing off kind of concubine-looking things from Morgan. But yeah, feudal Japan is a really exciting place to put this, and I think you can do really cool things with it. Milan, I chose you specifically, as I mentioned before, because your post you put up when you wanted to get into the class had some really amazing designs done in pen. Now, what I liked about these designs, I'm not saying they were amazing technically or anything like that. They were fresh. They had a style to them. They didn't look like you were copying photographs, which so many of us do, okay? So these had a really fresh quality to them. I really liked them. I know you know the ones I'm talking about. That's what I want to see. I want to see that. I could tell you were having fun with them. I could feel you having fun in the piece, and that's what you want with this. I want you to use that style. Don't focus so much on being photoreal. Focus on that style. Focus on having fun with it. Focus on doing a good design that I'm going to look at and go, oh wow, that's, I can tell he's enjoying this. I can tell he's having fun. You can push the photoreal into it later when you're doing your textures and your rendering. But for the drawings and the designs, I really want you to stick with that kind of loose mentality that I could tell you had with those pen drawings. I'm giving you Ancient Arabia because I think, especially with that style I saw with the sketches you had in your post, you could do some really amazing things with that, okay? So you're going to do the Arthur cycle characters in Ancient Arabia. I want Merlin to follow the genie archetype. I want him to be otherworldly and magical. I want to see all kinds of research into what they wore, what the mythology was, how you can implement the designs into these characters. There's a whole other thing in Ancient Arabia where, because of Muslim religion, things like that, they didn't focus on the human figure as much as in other cultures, especially since the next one we're going to be looking at is Ancient Egypt. They focused more on writing and design. There was a lot of floral patterns and things like that. You got to really look into how the design mentality differs from what you might think it was. There's all kinds of conceptions we have about this stuff based on what we've seen done before, but you got to really look at it from your own point of view and decide what you're going to do, what stuff you're going to keep, what you're going to cut, what you're going to emphasize. But yeah, I think that's, if I was going to do this, I would do it in Ancient Arabia. That's the one that's, that culture is very close to my heart. I really love the designs there. So really have fun with this. Do a lot of drawings, do a lot of sketching. Really explore it before you nail something down. Sorry. And the last one is for Tadas. You're going to get the toughest one. I'm sorry, but I had to give this to somebody, and I want to give it to you based on what I saw in your portfolio. Um, you're going to be doing the Arthur cycle in ancient Egypt. Now, this is really tough because ancient Egyptians didn't wear a ton, and the stuff they wore was pretty stripped down. However, if you look into it, trust me on this because I know what they did wear. I had to study ancient Egypt a ton when I was in school, and I have all kinds of books on it and stuff like that. But I'm not going to give you the answers. I can't give you the cheat sheet, okay? Just trust me on this. There's cool ways to do it. If you look into it, there's all kinds of armor, there's all kinds of face masks, there's all kinds of connections to the metaphysical, the priesthood, stuff like that, of ancient Egypt will fit this very, very well. And there's lots of room for creativity, especially when you start introducing their gods. With a character like Morgan, you can connect all kinds of things from Anubis to Thoth. You know, there's all kinds of great stuff you can do. The idea that Morgan was a woman given otherworldly knowledge, you know, that's the metaphor, was that she was given this otherworldly knowledge and she couldn't handle it. She became unhinged. She became this evil sorceress archetype. You know, there's all kinds of cool stuff you can do with their gods because their culture was so rooted in death and rebirth. There's all kinds of things you can do. Excalibur is going to be tough to draw in this culture, but trust me, you can do it. You can definitely do it. And of course, Arthur, he's going to be a king, but of course, a king in this culture is a pharaoh. So how are you going to do that? Are you going to give him a gold gilded mask? Is he not going to have it yet? Is he holding it at his side? Is he not wearing it and instead wearing one of those tall Osiris style hats? You know, there's all kinds of things you're going to have to take into play with this. But trust me, there's lots of room to do something really cool with ancient Egypt. Okay, some liner notes for this class. You will have 2 weeks per character, which is plenty of time. I have to turn characters around in a quarter of that time for clients now. So, trust me, I want you to take the first whole week. Don't start the final, really. I want you to take the first week to do lots of drawing, lots of sketching, have a lot of fun. Do your research, do your sketches, do your comps. Do all that. Take a whole week to do it. Start piecing together what you want the final to be. Come up with a sketchy composite of the best of everything you could find. And then after the first week, I want you to show me the sketches you did, and I want you to show me what you want the final to look like. At that point, I will critique them, I will review them, I will talk about the strengths and the weaknesses as if I was your AD and this was a job you had been given. And then you'll have the second week to take all that into consideration and push the character to finish. The second week, when you turn it in, I will crit it, I will do paint over, I will talk about the stuff you did well, the stuff you could improve on, and I will hand it back to you. And if you want to finish it and push it to a level of, you know, taking it that extra step for portfolio, that will be up to you. But I will also hand out the next assignment on the second week. There's 4 characters in total. That's 8 weeks. Okay? So this is going to wrap up right around the new year. A little bit beforehand. It's going to wrap up a little, basically around Christmas time. But, yeah. So that's how it's going to work. It's going to be a rolling cycle of sketching, then pushing to finish, then sketching, then pushing to finish, then sketching, then pushing to finish. Now, if you want to go forward and do the sketches for the characters that we haven't started yet now, and then come back to them later, that's absolutely fine. In fact, I would say if you get inspiration to do any of them that's particularly strong, do them when you have that inspiration and come back to them. Post them in the class thread. You know what I mean? Show them. Keep them there. Keep feed off of them, you know? Build on them. If you're sketching around on the Arthur character and you have a really good idea of how you could flip it for the Mordred character, get that down. Do it. You know, there's no problem in doing that. You can upset the order a bit. You can work on certain things at certain times. It's up to you. For the structure of the class, though, we are going to do the hero first, then the Merlin character, then the Temptress, then the villain. That's how I'm going to be looking at them and accepting them, so we can all talk about them as a group. For anyone following the class, and this is important, if you follow the class and you do the work for the class, I will talk about your work, and I will crit your work on the streams. The stream is going to meet Sundays. I haven't decided on a set time yet, but I want you guys to know that if you do follow the class and you do the work and you push it, I will show it and I will talk about it. Again, the big thing with Crimson Daggers is we don't want to exclude anybody. We don't want anyone to feel left out. And I understand the inherent problem in mentoring and selecting 3 people is that, 20 other people didn't get selected. If you follow the class and you do the stuff, I will talk about the work. I will show it. I'll talk about the strengths and weaknesses. I'll reply to it in the thread, if nothing else, and give you some feedback, okay? So, just one thing you got to keep in mind. I don't want these to be set in Europe. At all. This is the King Arthur characters, but I don't want to see them in Europe. You got to do something creative. I almost gave one of my students the King Arthur characters set in Native American culture, which would be extremely hard to do. I didn't do it because I thought it was a little too difficult for this first introductory class. If anybody wants to take it on, feel free, okay? You could do all kinds of stuff. You could do Native Americans, you could do ancient Mayans, you could do King Arthur set in the Eskimo tundra. There's all kinds of awesome takes you could do with it. Whatever you want to do, think about it, do it. Style is up to you. These don't have to be photoreal. These don't have to be absolutely, oh, that's perfect anatomy. What it does have to be is consistent. If I'm looking at your portfolio and I see that you want to be someone like Wes Burt, I'm going to judge you and critique you based on that mentality. If I'm looking at your portfolio and I see something more like PK Mike, who you guys know in the group, very, very stylistic, very much not cartoony, but stylized to a point that feels really, really kind of Pixar, that's really awesome, and that's how I'll crit you. What I don't want to see is one character looking cartoony and then your second character looking realistic. Have them be consistent, have them fit together, okay? At Dan, so we can't set them in ancient Roman time because that's Europe too. King Arthur is already a Roman myth. That's the thing, is that even the term Excalibur came from Caliburn. It was a Roman thing. It's too close. It's been done before. It's like King Arthur's dad was supposed to be a Roman legionnaire. It's already there. I mean, you can do it if you think you can find a cool way to interpret it that hasn't been done yet. Like, for example, if you set it in Roman times and you had it set in, like, Germany when the Roman Empire took over Germany, you could mix the cultures and you could have, like, the Goths and the Romans kind of, you could mix match the characters, like it's kind of a cultural clash. Because another big tree in the Arthur myth is the culture clash. It's the Gaels versus the Christians. So, I mean, if you can find a way to do it in Roman time that isn't just, oh, this is a Roman knight, he has Excalibur, this is a wizard dude who lives in the woods because it's Europe, find a way to do it that I haven't seen before, then yeah, go ahead. What about an alien take on it, like the legend would take place on another planet? I don't want to see that for one reason, and I'll tell you why. This class, because it's my first class and because it's an introduction to character design, I want to be able to judge the characters based on cultures that exist and on things that I can actually show you with empirical data and examples. Alien worlds are building a culture from scratch, which is a little more advanced, and it's something I'd be open to getting into in a future class. But for this one, I actually want people to be able to study the stuff they're going to interpret into their art. I want people to be able to look at things and translate it. The problem with doing an alien world is that there's no rules, and you can make all the rules, and because you can make all the rules, technically you can break the rules without breaking them. That might not make sense, but think about it. It's absolutely true. If you have control of an alien world, you can make mistakes and then tell me it's not a mistake because the rules on your planet are as follows. That is something that's very dangerous. And for a beginning class like this, I don't want to get into it. We can do it later. Building a culture is something that's very fun. It's something I love doing. Me and Dave have worked on it a lot in the past. We will do that later, I promise. We'll have a future class on building a culture from scratch, what everything would look like in it. But for right now, Character Design 101, it has to be a culture that existed in history. And don't think it doesn't just have to be ancient history. Think about that. You could do King Arthur set in World War I. You know what I mean? You could do those very cool I mean, in that case, you could do it in Europe. You could have those very cool European World War One outfits, and you know, there were swords in World War One. It would be very hard to do. It would be very hard to sell, but you could definitely try it. You could do Victorian London. You could do all kinds of stuff. I mean, you could do 1700s Japan. You know, when people were starting to break the borders. But yeah, so there you go. But yeah, for this class, avoid alien worlds. You know. Say if we like the ideas given to the 3 students, are we allowed to do them as well if we like the idea? Absolutely. Absolutely. You're more than welcome to. Anybody in here can do Arabia, Japan, Ancient Egypt. Those are the ones I gave the students. Anyone's open to do those, whatever you want to do. One thing, try not to copy each other. If you do the same stuff and you're all posting in the class thread, I will see it if you're all doing the same thing. That's one thing that's, it's easy to fall into that trap when one person has a really perfect idea for how to do something and it's public. Other people will see it and respond to it, and then you're going to have to find an alternative. That's always a problem. But feel free. Yeah, you can all post your work in the class thread. That's fine. Absolutely everybody can post their work in the class thread. Like I said, I'll check in the middle of the week. I'm going to do midweek crits. That's something I'm going to be doing regularly. So, like, you know, for my students and for anyone else following the class, upload your work as you finish it. If you do a sketch tonight, put it up tonight, because middle of the week I'm going to go through and look at the sketches and offer feedback, and that might really help you in the second half of the week. You know what I mean? The more active you are, the more active I will be for you. Okay? So it's going to be a give and take. The more you do, the more you show, the more I'll see it, the more I'll feedback into it. But yeah. Are there any other questions? I'll take any questions anyone has right now before I wrap this up. Because this is the first class, it's not really a class. It's like, you know, if anyone's ever gone to college, the first class, they hand out the syllabus, they talk about it. That's it. That's basically all this is. We're going to really hit the ground running next week, and hopefully during this week, if people are uploading stuff to the class. I would like to do some of these with you. I can't promise that I will. I really want to. I'm doing a ton of character work for Paizo Press now. They basically have me doing, like I did 15 this month. It's a lot. So my time has kind of disappeared. But yeah. Let's see. You mentioned in the thread about no white backgrounds. Could you elaborate on how we should present the finals? Oh, yeah, sure. Okay, so that's one thing I forgot to mention. Thanks, Thomas. For your finals, no white backgrounds. And what I mean by that is exactly what it says, no white backgrounds. So one thing you could do is you could vignette designs behind them and put them in front of some kind of loose background. I don't want full environments. That's too much work for the 2-week deadline. But, you know, you could come up with some kind of frame or something to put them in, or a vignette you could put the characters on top of. Another thing you could do is, let me look at my character file here. Yeah, okay, this is easy. Let me just pull this up. You know, look at this guy. Look at this character design. See how it's on like a gray kind of textured background with a cast shadow below it? That's better. The reason I want you to do this is because this will really let me see your lighting better. This will help you do the light better. It'll put them in a context, especially with the cast shadow. So basically, you know, the white background, it can skew how the eye interprets your values, and it can really skew how we're reading the character. Setting them on a darker background makes it feel like they're in a real space more. It lets you play with the light more. So that's what I want, okay? So yeah, no white backgrounds. You can either put them on gray, on black, on a textured background, on a vignette design, whatever you want to do, but no white for the finals. The sketches and stuff are fine on white. Do we have to show one view of the character like in the previous Bloodsport challenge, or a back view too? Just one view, okay? Just one view. I want to see frontal, 3/4 preferably, okay? So again, like the one I just pulled up, no flat facing forward characters. No people standing straight looking forward. I want them turned at least 3/4. if you want them facing forward for whatever design reason, if it really works better, you can do it. But make sure you're asking yourself, is this really working better, or do I just not want to draw them in 3/4? Okay. If it serves the illustration better, then yeah, you can make them face forward. But trust me, if you're just avoiding drawing them in perspective, I'm going to see it and call you out on it. So, other than that, I don't care which way they face. I don't care what they're doing. The Arthur character that we're starting with has to have Excalibur, and it has to work in their culture. So you have to look at, okay, if I'm doing ancient Egypt, what kind of weapons like swords did they have? How can I interpret this to make it look otherworldly and magical? How can I bring in their mythology to the design of this thing? You know, he has to have that. That's a necessity. Any other questions at all? Anything at all? I'm here for you. I'm here for you. This will be on demand, correct? Yes, it will, and I'm going to try to put them all on YouTube as well. Yes, it will be on demand. Should we post our research on the thread or just sketches and ideas? You can post research, that's fine. You can post anything you want related to the class in the thread. Anything you want related to it that will help people, whatever you want to do. But yeah. I imagine it's good to post the studies you've done to help with the final design painting. Yes, if you're doing studies to reinforce these, which you should be, then yes, post your studies as well as your sketches and designs. Post them up in the class thread. That'll be good. Exactly, Dorothy. If you choose to do something tough like Native American, that's going to pose a problem. But trust me, there's ways around it. I can already think of one. You just got to do the research. Not seeing a ton more questions. If anybody has any, feel free. But other than that, I mean, I've talked about everything. 1 week from today, next Sunday, your sketches and research for the Arthur character are due, as well as a rough design of what you want your final to look like. All that's due. Sketches, research, rough for the final. The week after that, you'll finish the final. So, okay, that's it. Again, to anyone who, yeah, I mean, I'm going to try, I mean, just, I'd like to apologize to everybody in the group, first off. I never thought I'd be this busy. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, I got slammed with work. So I'm barely able to live stream now. It's been kind of a problem. I am going to try to get on more often. I'm going to try and do more study streams and stuff like that. But basically right now, I'm in a job hole that was 15 jobs deep. I've got 5 left to finish before the first. Hopefully after I wrap up this cycle of work, I'll take less on, because I absolutely have I have absolutely no time. I shouldn't even be doing this stream right now, but there you go. I'll be more active on the forums though, especially now that the class is here, and hopefully everybody has fun with this. If you have any questions, post it in the class thread and I will see them. But yeah, that's basically it for me. Good luck to everybody. I look forward to seeing your interpretations. And yeah, no problem. I'm really glad the mentoring thing's taken off. When I started it, I was worried that people wouldn't get the ball rolling. For a while, it was just me and Chris, and then all of a sudden, tons of people started doing them, and I think it's really working well. I mean, it's kind of the only way to do streaming effectively when you're too busy to stream. You know, it makes sense, and I think it's going to keep working well. So, will I be taking a 4th student? Well, technically, you're all students if you all do the work. I will give you all feedback if you all do it. I mean, that's the way it's going to work. if you guys really push yourselves on the class thread, then yeah, I'll give you feedback. But yeah, have fun with this, and this will be on demand. And like I said, I'll try to put it on YouTube. Sorry I couldn't show more today, but like I said, it's the first class. This is just the introduction, and good luck. Have fun. Sketch, sketch, sketch. Sketch, 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 sketch. Skis, 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 skis. And remember, style's totally up to you. These can be realistic characters. These can be photoreal characters. These can be children's book designs. These can be tarot cards. You know, these can be vignettes. These can be cartoony. These can be Pixar. Whatever you want to do, it's your portfolio. Pick a style, your voice, what you want to do, and do that. Make it work for you. I'm looking at you, Milan. I'm looking at you. If you don't do those pen sketches I saw, I'm going to kick you out of my class. I'm going to hunt you down. Alright. Have a good night, everybody. Thanks for coming. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. It's going to be great.